And we're live.
Hello and welcome back to another Put This Movie into the Criterion Collection, you fucking cowards episode of the First Time Watchers podcast.
Because we like to watch.
What was that?
That was me squeezing my dress together to make my boobs pop out.
Nice. My name is Tim Costa.
I'm Romano de Silva.
This is Walter Vinci.
And what we like to do on the FTW podcast is find a movie that none of us have seen, watch it together, and then discuss. These movies can be new, they can be old, or something that's on all of the lists of shame. Stay tuned to the very end of this episode to hear each of us make a very special movie recommendation. And remember, you can always email us at firsttimewatchers@gmail.com. No feedback this week.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. I asked people to leave a review over the summer. Nobody left a review over the summer.
You know, that's because they're doing summer things, and we're not actually, releasing episodes over the summer.
Excuses.
It could be. I'm just saying.
You giving these lazy bastards just the benefit of the doubt?
Yeah, a little bit.
I don't know. Hermano, do you have an explanation?
They're probably listening to quality podcasts like the True Romance podcast.
That's fair. That's very fair, to be honest with you.
Leave our negative reviews on their page.
Yes. You know, they just talked about Rudy. Talk about second time watch. Rudy.
Wow.
That's a great movie. What do you think about Rudy?
I love Rudy. I actually listened to that episode. You know what I really appreciate is that their episodes keep getting shorter and shorter. So when you listen to them at double speed, you're literally done in 18 minutes. And it's great. I applaud those guys. Much like I like the 90-minute film, I love the 18-minute podcast.
At double speed, I imagine Jairo sounds like a Mexican mouse. Like Speedy Gonzalez.
They sound like the chipmunks, the Hispanic chipmunks.
Uh-huh.
I feel like I'm listening to a Univision podcast.
Excellent. All right, enough pimping other people's shows. In this episode, we continue our second time watcher series to discuss a film from my formative years. Paul Verhoeven's Showgirls. Classic film. But before we get into it, it is time for Yay or Nay. This is the part of the show where we discuss what we have seen recently on our own. I'll go first. Just a couple of things from me. The wife and the kid went away this past weekend, so I had a lot of time to myself, and that means I could.
And with this rewatch, you must have had a lot of time to yourself.
We'll get there, Wally. Don't get too far into the episode. So I was able to get out to the local art house theater and caught the new movie Luce, Luce.
Okay.
With Tim Roth and Naomi Watts. About a married couple is forced to reckon with their idealized image of their son, adopted from war-torn Eritrea? I don't know what country that is. After an alarming discovery by a devoted high school teacher threatens his status as an all-star student. So if you've seen the trailer, it really sells it as a thriller, a whodunit, as a who to trust, who's telling the truth type of thing. And, it really is at its core that type of film, if you want to follow it on its own narrative and plot. But it's kind of a thinker. It questions the meaning of the word truth and the power of that. It questions the motives of who's telling the truth, half truths. Other people could be lying, but it digs deeper than that to get into kind of like the grays of everyday life and perception and realities, and leaves a lot of room to ask, what it is to parent and guide a human in this world. So, and how difficult that can be, no matter how much we do or don't know about them, and as they get older. So, I'll say the last shot of this movie is very compelling because it can be interpreted in many ways. It just matters where your perspective kind of lies. So. It's probably going to be in and out of those art house theaters really quickly. So if you have a chance to catch up with this before the end of the year or on DVD or streaming or whatever, I would recommend it because it's a little bit unconventional, but worth the watch. And then I was able to get out to the second run crappy discount theater that we have nearby, and I caught Aladdin first off, but I don't need to talk about that. But I did watch Rocketman, the Elton John movie.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
With Taron Egerton, who stars as Elton John, and directed by Dexter Fletcher, who was the guy that came in to try to salvage what was left in the wake of Bryan Singer leaving Bohemian Rhapsody. So I could definitely see a lot of similarities in some of the filmmaking styles. Mentioning Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocketman, I've come to understand the importance of the masterpiece that came out, was it 10, 11 years ago now, called Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story?
Yep.
Because that movie has shown how irrelevant music biopics have become. Because they all follow a similar storyline, a similar trajectory that Walk Hard so perfectly parodied. I'm just kind of amazed that there are flashes of brilliance in this movie when it comes to flares of creativity and different ways to transition from one part of the story to the other. But at its heart, again, is just so many familiar plot beats of him struggling with his growing up with his family, with his mother and his father, and moments of conflicting, his own inner demons and drug use and his own sexuality and all that kind of stuff that is so rote. It's so trite, ham-handed standard for this type of story. It's Edgerton is very good in this movie, and everyone else who's cast in this movie is nearly unrecognizable. But like I said, there's visual sequences smattered throughout, but I don't know. It still is way better than Bohemian Rhapsody. It's like two extremes. Bohemian Rhapsody is the absolute bottom of music biopics, and Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, is the absolute top. It's a pinnacle. So, and that's not even a real story. So, it's amazing. Yeah, that's it for me. What do you got, Hermano?
Okay, so these days, limited time, I've been mostly relegated to watching TV. I started the second season of The Terror on AMC. The second season is titled The Terror Infamy. I was a huge fan of the first series. Wasn't sure if it was coming back because didn't seem like it left it open for a sequel. So apparently they decided to make it an anthology series. So based on the popularity, I guess, or the success of the first season, this one has nothing to do with the original series. This one focuses more on Japanese Americans living in America on an island off of California shortly before D-Day, and what happens post the day that lived in infamy. Is that how it goes, Tim?
Yeah, sounds about right.
A day that will live in infamy, or something like that.
Yes.
Well,
why did you automatically go to me? Because Wally's the war monger.
Yeah, but I know. Yeah. I immediately was like, why didn't I go to Wally? But I know that you like your war history as well. So I'm probably, out of the three of us, probably the least versed when it comes to things like that. But so it's a pretty heavy subject. I've only watched the first two episodes. It also it couldn't be The Terror without having some sort of supernatural element. This one, I guess, focuses on a Japanese folklore demon of some sort. Don't really know exactly what it's all about yet. Like I said, it's still early in the series, but I'm on board so far. The only thing that really separates, at least initially, the two seasons is that this one, where the first one felt very horror-centric with, what was also a real-life event, while this one is also based on real-life events, featuring, the Japanese got put into internment camps right here on U.S. soil. There was all this fear of, the Japanese that are here on our soil. Like, are they acting as spies? The FBI was rounding people up, even children. Does that sound familiar? So it, to that point is why it seems more of a depressing watch, because there are real life events going on now that so parallel everything you're seeing currently on the series, that it's a little more depressing on that level, where the other one, it was completely just like you're completely removed and you're just watching a horror TV show essentially. You're not having to think and have that stuff, that type of baggage on the back of your mind. So I'm still on board. I'm still gonna watch it, but so far so good. I was a huge fan, like I said, of the first season, and this one looks like it's gonna continue the quality. And then, do you guys remember a while back? I was patting myself on the back that I thought I'd really achieved a milestone and watched every single episode of Forensic Files.
Yes.
And it was like, like 300-ish episodes, maybe like 330, something like that. So the total run of Forensic Files. I'm currently watching a series that doubles that.
Oh.
And I'm already a pretty good clip in. During the summer, I watched the original 5 seasons of Naruto. Wally, do you know what Naruto is? I know, Tim, there's no chance in hell you know what Naruto
No.
is.
I've watched the first couple of seasons of Naruto.
Yeah, I know some people pronounce it Naruto or Naruto. I
I
kind of...
don't know. You brought me a Kakashi keychain for my birthday one year.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I've got like Rock Lee stickers like on some of my old stuff.
Yeah, did you just like kind of fall off like I did in the 2000s?
It's such a long series. I was watching that and Bleach at the same time.
Yeah,
and
I
they're
was
just
too.
such incredibly long series that I fell behind and just never got back into it to catch up.
Yeah, I kind of was the same thing. Like, I think I got caught up in school and stuff because it premiered in the early 2000s, like 2002. It was right around the time I started college. And as much as I tried to keep up, I just kind of fell behind. I think I stopped around the 3rd or 4th season. And I always kind of intended to go back. And I realized that it was streaming on Amazon, all 5 seasons. So I was like, you know what? Do I start right at 3rd season? And because I barely remember like a lot of the plot points. So I was just, I said, you know what? I'm going to set a goal for myself. I'm going to watch all 5 seasons. And I did. And I watched it over the summer. And Tim, you might be saying like, what the hell? How can you do this? But they're really short. They're like 20 minutes. And if you skip the opening title and the end title, it's really more like 17. So they're really quick, just like bite-sized watches. I guess I should probably talk about what it is. So it features a character of Naruto, and he is this young kid, I think like 10 years old. And it's set in a world where, kids grow up to be ninjas, essentially, and they're trained to be ninjas and protect their villages, and there's all these different villages. And the main character, the title character, has a dream of becoming the Hokage, which is basically the leader of his village and the strongest ninja in his village.
There's zero chance I'm going to be watching this.
No, I highly doubt you ever watch this.
Well, if you want to get into Area 51, you're going to need to watch this very quickly because you're going to need to be able to run.
You're going to have to do the Naruto run, Tim.
Yeah, no, I've heard about that. I've heard about this.
Do you even know what it looks like?
Yes.
My son used to do it when he was younger, and it like was endlessly entertaining to see him do it and never having seen the show or anything. It basically, just imagine putting your arms straight behind your back and running without moving them.
Yeah, and you got to lean far forward.
You got to lean forward as well, almost like you're like one of those like skaters when they like do one of those big long jumps and they lean forward with their skates, except you put your arms way back and straight. It's amazing. It looks really cool. Huge fan of it. But anyway, it's for anyone that's never seen Naruto, and the closest comparison is maybe something like Dragon Ball Z as far as the structure. A lot of exposition, a lot of explaining and exposition dumps, and a lot of long drawn out like episodes. Will highlight characters and like maybe some enemies, and it'll like be drawn out for like 10 episodes. And while that may sound like a negative, they actually handle it fairly well, maybe even a bit better than Dragon Ball Z at times, where Dragon Ball Z would have arcs that would literally stretch like an entire season, and it would look like people were just standing around and talking a lot. This, I think they handle it a bit better, and they kind of do a unique thing, like when there's like big battles, they kind of switch up the animation style, and it's really unique and cool looking. It kind of reminds me of like the Animatrix, but not as heavily CGI. Just kind of the way the characters all of a sudden move, and it just kind of really adds to the whole, ninja stuff featured heavily in the series. So I finished those 5 seasons, and there was a second series called Naruto. Probably going to pronounce this incorrectly. Shippuden, and that ran from like I think 2007 to 2017, so 10 years. And each of those is 50 episodes a season. So the total number of episodes is 720. And I'm currently like in the 300s. I'm on the second season of the new series. So
what is wrong with you?
the new series is set like 3 years after.
Why
so
are
the
you
kids
wasting
are
our
all, like,
time with
teenagers.
this?
Because it's so quick. Like I can literally watch like 5 episodes and it's only been an hour. Like it's just the way it is now. Like I can only find like 20 minutes at a time with kids. Like I can maybe have 20 minutes to watch an episode, or if I'm lucky, an hour to watch like 5 episodes. You know what I mean? It just feels like, I don't know, and it's fun. Like it's not like I'm just doing it to waste time or anything like that. The show is actually pretty well done.
What has this done to your brain watching this many episodes of an anime show?
You know what it does? It's like a time machine. It transports me back to the 90s when I was watching tons and tons of anime, and I just kind of fell off, and I just couldn't keep up with all the stuff I wanted to see, and I felt like I had to start doing adulting. So I just kind of put it aside, and now that I'm like, pushing middle age, I feel like I'll catch up with some of this stuff that I wish I had seen. And this is kind of like my a middle-aged guy goes and gets like a sports car.
Hey, did you see the Bad Boys for Life trailer?
Yeah, I as soon as I saw when it's being released, I'm like, yeah, it makes perfect sense. Because that trailer looked so terrible. I was like, is this really Joe Carnahan?
It's not.
I thought he was supposed to direct it. What happened?
That was a long time ago. Yeah, no. It's two guys, Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah, directing it.
You honestly saw that trailer and thought it looked good?
Oh yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. Absolutely.
It looked like a movie that should never exist. Like it looked like these guys barely wanted to be there. Martin Lawrence specifically looked like he didn't even try to get back into some sort of like physical shape that he formerly resembled.
I'll agree with you there. Absolutely.
I'm like, what is happening? Like they didn't even show up to work. Like they're just like, all right, cool, let's do this movie, whatever. I don't know, man. January seems perfect for this.
Joe Carnahan is one of the writers.
Okay.
Vanessa Hudgens is in it.
Okay.
Joey Pants. Come on, Joey Pants is back.
I don't even know who Vanessa Hudgens?
Yeah.
High School Musical. She had a nudes leak a long time ago.
Yes. Thanks.
That's what she's known. Well, he's like, she's also known for
Oh
High School Musical and a nude leak.
She's been in a lot of stuff. She was in Machete Kills.
She was?
Yeah, and Sucker Punch.
Oh yeah, she was in Sucker Punch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
That's gonna be on my list for second time watch, I think, at some point.
Oh God, no. Sucker Punch?
Yeah.
Oh dear God. If we're complaining about Showgirls pushing it.
I was just about to say, what the hell has happened to second time watch? I thought we had established that it was like movies we watched as kids and reevaluating. All of a sudden, we're watching Showgirls and Sucker Punch.
Oh, it's all coming apart live the first time watching this podcast.
I can see the seams.
So Naruto Shippuden. Yeah, good. Yes.
Highly recommend, especially if you're going through a midlife crisis like I am.
Well, we should have known this wouldn't take long to get weird.
You're telling me.
Hey guys!
Want to explain where all these scantily clad women came from?
Why do you even bother asking him questions, Tim?
I'm glad you asked him. I figured the one way we could get more visibility for the show is to add in another show. A spectacular, if you will.
I have a feeling this will... How should I put it?
Be a spectacular failure?
Yes, that's right.
Wow, guys. Way to kill another man's vision of titular titty tremendousness.
Anyways, you know what show is always worth catching night or day?
The In Session Film Podcast.
That's right, Tim. The In Session Film Podcast is JD and Brendan.
Wouldn't mind taking a stage with Brendan, if you know what I mean. Ow!
A little last-minute ice to cool you down.
Ooh.
Each week, the In Session Film Podcast chooses a movie to review.
Then creates a top 3 list based on what they just saw.
This week, the In Session Film Podcast is reviewing Apocalypse Now.
And not just a top 3, but a top 5 predictions for the fall movie season.
You can find their show on Apple Podcasts by searching for, you guessed it, the In Session Film Podcast.
Or on the web at InSessionFilm.com.
So if you're looking for more great movie reviews and discussion,
then check out the In Session Film podcast on Apple Podcasts.
Or on the web at insessionfilm.com.
Okay, everyone, places.
This should be good.
Tim, Romano, I said places.
Wait, what?
Huh?
5, 6, 7, 8.
Reflection goes, I know sometimes you wanna let go. Hey, I know sometimes you wanna let go. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? You're too bad, you're too rude. You're too bad. You're too rude, yeah. Bad boys. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you?
Okay, this is the second time watchers episode, so that means we like to play a game we like to call
Movie Battle Royale.
This is where we use flickchart.com to create our collective top 10 list of all time. We've pitted the 5 pairings of movies and decide which one is better with each battle. You ready?
Let them fight.
First up, The Silence of the Lambs versus National Treasure.
They each bring something different to the table. This is a tale of two very different movies.
I knew you would have a tough time with this, Wally, because even, as much as I adore National Treasure and the Nick Caginess of Nick Cage, I got to go with Silence of the Lambs.
I will have to go with Silence of the Lambs as well. I mean, it's one of those masterpiece style movies where National Treasure is one of those fun movies you watch on a rainy Sunday afternoon.
It's funny too watching Mindhunter and seeing how clearly somebody like Kemper is, or maybe Hannibal Lecter was modeled after Kemper, or vice versa, or whatever.
Absolutely.
Wally, do you think Silence of the Lambs is a horror film?
No, it's a thriller.
I just checked IMDb. It's only listed as crime, drama, thriller. I've always considered it partially horror.
I think a lot of people do.
Yeah, it's weird. I wonder why leave horror off.
Anyways, which one would you pick, Corrado?
Oh, come on. You even have to ask me. I thought this was going to be one of the ones we just breeze on by.
All right, next up, A Few Good Men versus Young Frankenstein. You know what? I don't think I've ever seen Young Frankenstein in its entirety. I'm not
never seen it.
I'm not the biggest fan of Mel Brooks.
I can see that. So we'll load up another movie to go up against A Few Good Men.
Die Hard 2.
Oh, A Few Good Men.
Whoa! What's this, Romano? What's this hesitation here?
That's an easy one.
I don't know. Rennie Harlan?
Rennie Harlan versus Rob Reiner. Let them fight.
Yeah, seriously. Who do you think would win in a fight?
I give it to Rennie Harlan.
Let that be the battle royale. Yeah, I don't know, man. I
When was the last time you watched A Few Good Men? I've talked about this movie so many times on the show because I keep forgetting when was the most recent time I watched it, and it would have been the year prior. Because I have a desire to watch this movie over and over again at least once a year because I love that movie so much.
Yeah, I think this is the phase in Tom Cruise's career where I don't think I was fully on board because he was putting out stuff like Few Good Men, The Firm, Born on the 4th of July.
This is when he still cared about his acting and stretching himself as an actor.
Yeah, but it was so like it might as well have been stamped on his forehead that he was like, he's like, hey, I'm just not content doing those like, he wasn't really fully into action films. Really,
other than Top Gun, what other action type movie? The first Mission Impossible came out in '96, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Firm?
The Firm isn't even action; it's a thriller.
No.
Again.
It's kind of more of a thriller.
Yeah, he runs in it, of course.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like the running scene down the street.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I like him better in the actiony stuff. I like Few Good Men. I don't hate it, and all those films I've mentioned, I like on some level, but. I don't know, Die Hard 2. Kind of like the trashiness that Rennie Harlan brings.
I'm honestly surprised you're struggling over this much.
All right, Few Good Men.
Few Good Men it is. Next up, The Mask versus It's a Wonderful Life. The Mask.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Well, if Jim Carrey doesn't take it, I don't know what the hell's wrong with the both of you.
What if Jim Carrey starred in a remake of It's a Wonderful Life. Nowadays he could do it.
I would watch that.
Yeah.
I think he would be really good in it.
I think
I
nowadays.
think that would test Tim's remake everything.
Oh, absolutely. No, remake it. Remake everything. I'll watch it.
Really, even with Jim Carrey in that role.
Sure. Absolutely.
And all of a sudden, of course, they make it more comedic to suit Jim Carrey's style. You'd be totally okay with it.
Absolutely. I'd watch it. It doesn't erase the original movie and my love for it.
I'm not saying it erases the original movie, but I feel like it's just like some stain on it,
No,
like
not
an
at all.
asterisk hanging over it.
I don't view that way at all. Nope.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, It's a Wonderful Life. Next up, Ice Age versus Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Have you guys seen Ice Age?
I have.
I have kids. Remember?
I actually watched it on a bus ride back from New York. They actually ran that as the movie. But it's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
That movie is just great, and I have to get my hands on that Arrow UK release special edition that they just brought out.
Finally, you guys seen Rush Hour 2?
Yes.
Up against Rain Man.
Of course, it's gonna go to Rain Man. That's it. That movie is just a solid movie. It's great.
Is it? Is it? Really?
Yes,
You think
it is.
so?
Another one in the. I guess you could.
Compared to Rush Hour 2, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, another in the series of Tom Cruise for a while, man. It seems like this is all he was doing was going for the kind of the Oscar level role. Born on the 4th of July, Rain Man, A Few Good Men, obviously, Cocktail.
I mean, if this is going up against something like Shawshank Redemption, all right, we can have a discussion. But it's going up against Rush Hour 2. Obviously, it's going to be Rain Man.
You know, Shawshank Redemption is still our number one collective.
I know,
movie.
but that's why I'm making the point.
Yeah, Rain Man, right? Rain Man, Nirvana?
Of course.
Sure, just for the Wapner.
But I set fire to the rain. Watch it pour as I touch the face. When it burned, will I cry? 'Cause I heard it screaming out your name. When I lay with you, I could stay there. Close my eyes, feel you here.
All right, guys. So we need to record our top 3 reasons why you should listen to French Toast Sunday podcast.
Number 3 should definitely be our diverse opinions.
Number 2 should probably be our top 3 lists that we do every week.
No, it's gotta be Mark Wahlberg.
What about Gwyneth Paltrow's head?
It's gotta be Fighting the Sadness in the Swamp of Sadness.
Full Frontal.
Stories about being lost at sea.
Brendan Fraser being underground?
Helen Mirren's boobs.
Baltimore accents as heard in The Wire.
Crepes?
Character studies.
Wait, guys. What about movies?
Tree rape.
Tree rape? Yeah, I like tree rape.
Tune in every Friday for a new episode of French Toast Sunday podcast, brought to you by us at FrenchToastSunday.com.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Okay, let's talk about Showgirls.
Would you say yes?
You're gonna be a big star.
Could you say no?
You like her? I'll buy her for you.
Ask yourself,
you're a stripper, don't you get it?
I'm a dancer.
what price would you pay for your dream?
If someone gets in your way, step on them.
It's not about fair, it's about power.
This Friday, see the movie everyone is talking about.
Showtime.
Showgirls, rated NC-17, no children under 17 admitted. Starts Friday.
The plot. Nomi, a young drifter, arrives in Las Vegas to become a dancer and soon sets out clawing and pushing her way to become the top of the Vegas Showgirls. Way to spoil it, IMDb. The director, Paul Verhoeven, the actors? Elizabeth Berkley, Kyle MacLachlan, Gina Gershon, and so many other nameless people. All right, before we get into it, let me just tell you a little bit, because you guys, I guess, wondered, especially Hermano, has been wondering why I chose this movie as my second-time watcher's pick. First off, I thought it'd be fun to talk about. That's my main reason, and I think I'm gonna be right. But my formative years, I don't know, 90, 95. Look, there's an era of the 90s erotic thriller. It's a genre that just does not exist anymore. You think Basic Instinct, you think of another Verhoeven film, of course, and any other of those 90s movies that were of lesser or better quality, mostly lesser, because they were there for a reason, but they served a particular audience. They were relatively popular, and I was in 95. I was 17. So think my formative teenage years are at the same time as this new erotic thriller genre is coming to fruition, and I'm like, sure, I'll watch as many of these VHS tapes or whenever it hits HBO, and I'll watch it, and I'll be like, yes, I'll soak this up because I'm the prime age to be able to do this. I was lucky enough that I remember in 92, my parents went to go see Basic Instinct, and they came back from the theater. I asked them how it was, and they were like, oh, that was really good. And my mom was like, yeah, that was really great. And the next year, my mom rented it and allowed me to watch it. I didn't watch it with her. But she said, yes, you can watch it, because, she trusted me and all that kind of stuff. I liked the movie despite, all the nudity as well. I liked the movie as well. I don't know. It's just one of those things that I just remember the push of the NC-17, and it didn't hit that many theaters. I think it was like 1,300 theaters nationwide. It was one of those things that built up kind of a reputation of, oh my God, this illicit movie. It somehow made it to theaters, and it's been a bomb, and it has the girl from Saved by the Bell, and you got to watch this. And eventually I did, and I was like, what is? I had no idea how to process it, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's kind of my story, I guess. That's my story. Hermano, what's your history of this movie, and what did you think of this rewatch?
My history is, well, first, I feel like we've already kind of sort of touched on it, but the spirit of the second time watch originally was, watch a film from when you were a kid and reevaluate it with adult eyes. This came out in what, 95?
Yeah, I was 17. I wouldn't even consider myself close to being adult, even mentally. No way. Absolutely
See,
not.
I don't know. I on some level, I could look back and maybe refer to myself at 17 as a kid, but in my mind, I was thinking more like pre-high school. Like 13, 14 is the cutoff for kids films, and then you start watching, maybe slightly more adult level films. So that's initially what kind of like made me just kind of go like, what, you're picking Showgirls? I was like 19 when that came out, and I have some recollection of, I'm not 100% sure, but I think I saw this in the theater.
What?
And I think probably what would have attracted me to it is the forbidden fruit nature of it, like you mentioned, like the NC-17, and if it was playing near me, and of course I would have been of age to see it, I might have gone see it. I don't know. This is also before I owned my first computer and had, unlimited access to porn. So this would have been, akin to going to a porn theater. I guess I should talk about my viewing. Do you guys mind if I,
Go ahead. Do it.
Talk about my viewing?
Do it.
So I think it was Wally that, clued us into the fact that it had just recently left some streaming options just before I had a chance to watch it. So I had to do some, in some people's eyes, illicit activity to view it. I had to call on our friends, the Russians.
Collusion!
I colluded with the Russians.
Look, when it all goes downhill again next year, I'm going to blame you.
I colluded with the Russians, and they graciously allowed me to watch it in 360p.
Oh, shit.
Which is a very low picture quality. Not quite DVD. For people that don't know, DVD quality is 480p.
480.
So I watched it just below
VHS level.
DVD. essentially VHS level.
You're
and,
watching like 90s streaming P.
Basically. And you know
like
what?
The
I think
old
it's
Vivo plugin.
you don't quite have the right plugin, and it doesn't play quite properly.
It's Real Player. Watched it in Real Player.
Essentially, and I think it's exactly what this film deserves. Watching it on that level, because yeah, it's. I mean, on some level, it's amusing to watch what is astoundingly bad acting, specifically from Elizabeth Berkley, who is giving a masterclass in overacting, like literally on every level, to simple actions like just eating a hamburger or walking. She is like overacting even that, like just overemphasizing every
the hamburger
movement.
and fries scene when she first sits down with her friend.
It is the most aggressive diner scene I've ever seen in my life. That woman sitting across from her, I'm like, was she directed this way? Like, did Paul Verhoeven say, just act a fool? Act like you're on meth?
No. You have to imagine Paul Verhoeven is a very experienced director and knows exactly what he's doing, and you have to imagine that he knew exactly what he had from day one and just went with it.
I kind of agree, because I feel like almost everyone is on the same plane. I will give the film credit there. Elizabeth Berkley, Kyle MacLachlan, Gina Gershon, all the other supporting characters, except for her friend, seem to be in the same film. Her friend seems to be like, I guess, sort of like a moral compass, where everyone else is like total sleazebags and like the most garbage human beings you've ever seen in your life. Like, her friend is easily the one that has it most together. She's going to school, she works, she's supportive of her friend in all her endeavors. Like, she's like the only one that seems like she has a good head on her shoulders, and ultimately it's really unfortunate that she probably pays the harshest price for, you know, just being in the vicinity of everyone else. But I just don't know what to make of this film. Like, if the whole idea is, let's just spend 2 hours with the most garbage human beings you've ever seen doing the most despicable, terrible things to each other in Vegas, which I've never been to Vegas. I think both of you guys have, right?
Yep.
I have.
Is this even remotely your experience?
No, of course this is my experience. Of course.
Well, it does
Is this
remind me of
what
the time I was a professional dancer at the Riviera.
Well, this was your experience as a male dancer?
Who said I was a male dancer?
Oh,
Did you just assume my
sorry,
gender?
sorry. I assumed your gender. I'm sorry, Walter.
Look, I could expect. Look, walking around Vegas during the day and nighttime, I could totally expect this being some people's lives.
Okay, for the record, when I was in Vegas, I was had an active game going the entire time I was down there, where I would take the escort flyers that the Mexicans would hand out and bring them to the next Mexican and hand him the flyer that I had to take one of his. And I'd work all the way down the street doing this and then back up the other side. It was fun as hell.
Yeah, I just on some level I've always heard of, like, you know, the little flapper guys, you know, slapping those porn pamphlets on their hands, trying to get your attention. I've heard people being propositioned right on the sidewalk. So on some level, I think this film is like a hyper exaggerated version of Vegas in like the types of people that inhabit it.
Are you saying Paul Verhoeven did something hyper realistic?
I think that's sort of his calling card. I just don't think that I like this on the level of Total Recall or, you know, RoboCop. You know, like where those seemed like they had some sort of satirical you know, factor to them. I feel like this one just doesn't have anything that I can really mine from it and take away from the film once it's over. It just feels like I just spent a lot of time with a bunch of people that I would never really want to meet in real life, or I would never give even a second of my time to. And I don't know what the point is at the end of the day. It just seems like there really is no point, and it's supposed to be sensational, and it's supposed to like push your buttons, and I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss for words almost, because watching it as an adult, especially, I don't even remember what my thoughts on it were originally. So I have no recollection of whether I even came away positive. I knew the reputation of the film and kind of what it did to Elizabeth Berkley, and she kind of never recovered from this, essentially. And I knew why she was probably doing it. It kind of seemed to me like she was trying to completely obliterate the image she had from Saved by the Bell. And you know, like sometimes actors do that when they're known for one thing, they try to branch out and do something completely drastic and opposite from what they're known to kind of shatter that.
Did you go
that wholesome image?
Did you go through the trivia on this? And you know, with the IMDb trivia, you have to take a lot of it with a grain of salt. But I can totally imagine at this time period the other people who were up for Elizabeth Berkley's role. That's
I don't even know who was.
It's Pamela Anderson, Angelina Jolie, Denise Richards, Vanessa Marcil, Charlize Theron.
Yep.
Wow, I maybe believe two of those.
Well,
Pamela Anderson, I could see going for this.
Angelina Jolie at the time. This is 4 years before Girl Interrupted, where she won the Academy Award, and this is like Hackers era. Angelina Jolie, I can totally see that.
Yeah, with that qualifier, maybe. But I mean, who else did you say? Charlize Theron?
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
At the time, this is well before Reindeer Games. She is not even known at this point.
Yeah, but I can't see anyone saying, like, even as an up and comer, saying like, this is what I want to do. Even with Paul Verhoeven's, cred, up to this point, like I feel like this is a kind of ballsy role, an NC-17 film, even as an up and coming actress. Like it's a real long shot with low probability that it's going to turn into something that makes you like a star and gets you a lot more work.
So are you saying you didn't have that much fun watching this movie?
The most fun I had was there's a scene that you could easily miss, but it's literally the epitome of everything this film represents. And there's a sign outside of a hotel room, and if you blink, you can miss it. But it says, Jesus is coming soon.
Yes.
Yep.
But the letters S and O are blinking on and off. So it really, at points, it reads, Jesus is coming on. And I'm like, they did that on purpose. And that, it's like this visual gag that they thought would fit perfectly in this film. And they were right.
Huh. Interesting. Wally, I imagine you had a better time watching this.
Okay, so I remember seeing this in the theater. And I went with my friend Joe. He and I both worked at Taco Bell, and he's like, let's go to the movies. I said, all right, let's go see Desperado. He says, no, I want to go see Showgirls. And I'm like, motherfucker, why would you not want to watch Desperado? And he was hell-bent on going to see Showgirls. So I went with him to go see Showgirls, and we both walked out of the movie that I had my arms full, and I go, we could have seen Desperado. And then we went to Not Your Average Joe's for dinner. I watched this at work, and this is not an easy movie to watch at one's cubicle. So now, mind you, I'm left up with a fair amount of autonomy at work, so it wasn't too difficult to watch the whole movie.
I was gonna say, Wally, you might have a bunch of HR notices waiting for you a couple days from now.
Maybe. They haven't come through yet. This movie. All right, so knowing Paul Verhoeven has been a big hit for me for most of his stuff. Basic Instinct, RoboCop, Total Recall, Starship Troopers. I tend to love this stuff. And this is a Paul Verhoeven movie that really feels like it was directed by Tommy Wiseau.
Huh.
Just in the way the characters are acting, the way they talk to each other, like the aggressive hamburger eating. Like I picture just Wiseau often no, you gotta eat like you're hungry. Like you haven't seen food in so long. Yeah, you have Elizabeth Berkley, who wants to distance herself from Jesse Spano, wants to be taken as a more serious actress, and you've got Kyle MacLachlan, who is at this point, as Twin Peaks has already come and gone, right?
Yes,
it was 92, so you have the TV series that was a hit in the 90s, so he's kind of a star, and you got Gina Gershon, always a treat for the eyes, and this movie is just it shouldn't be this kind of a disaster, and part of me really feels like this is all intentional. Like Paul Verhoeven didn't fuck it up. I think he made something that a lot of people just didn't get.
No, you see, I don't think it's that. Well, while I do agree that the movie is intentional, I don't think that he created an willfully created an unrecognized masterpiece. I think it's he saw the finalized script. He's working with the script as he's filming. He sees the actors, and especially when you're focusing almost every single scene on Elizabeth Berkley, I think he knew exactly what he was doing. So it's just a matter of working with what you have and trying to make the best out of it. And it's nowhere near as over the top as something like Starship Troopers. Starship Troopers is a movie where it's totally the tongue in cheek is completely on the screen. It's completely intentional. You can totally tell. Even with something like Total Recall and RoboCop, the same thing. And Basic Instinct, while over the top in its some of its theatrics, he had much better actors to work with, and I think he was able to play it a lot more straight in that film. So I just don't think he tried to elevate this above the material and the actors.
Yeah, that's why I think it's intentional that it's as bad as it is. I think you have the backdrop of it's hard for me to kind of get away from this line of thought. You have this backdrop of Vegas. It's the city that people go to get married, to maybe strike a fortune at the tables, maybe to go off on it. You can do anything in Vegas. Whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Right.
Was that?
Yeah,
and then you've got Paul Verhoeven, who has a pedigree in all these other movies. Like Best Things was a huge hit for him. So was Total Recall, right? Mm-hmm. So you have this backdrop of this also this director who's also done these two big blockbuster movies, and he takes these trash people in these trash situations and just really I feel like is kind of like a double show. Like you have the glamour of Vegas, the shine of a solid director, and intentionally making garbage. To say that like there's more going on behind this than you think. Like what you think is glamour is not really glamour at all.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is also fed by Joe Esterhaus, who wrote the script, who apparently had a lot of like inside scoop on who's boning who in Hollywood and around the area. So a lot of this stuff is just coming from his pen, these situations and these characters, people that he had heard about or maybe even knew it personally.
Yeah, he's trying to write some sort of expose on the industry in this town, and somehow it falls flat. But it's one of those movies that I think we're trying to say is that it goes in such the wrong direction that it comes back around again and becomes such an amazing watch. To me, I was thrilled watching this movie again because it is a fascinating train wreck. It is amazing to watch. Every single scene, there is nothing that isn't boring to me.
No, this is true.
It's just amazing. I am dead serious when I say this movie belongs in the Criterion Collection because it is a fascinating mix of movies. It's a part A Star Is Born. It's a part Babyface, which is this pre-code 1930s movie about a woman who sleeps her way to the top. Everything about Elizabeth Berkley, I swear to God, I can't take my eyes off of her because she is at 11 the whole time. There is no other level for her. It's amazing to watch her against someone like Gina Gershon, who is a much more seasoned and a better actress, of course. And her, she isn't her character isn't deep. There's nothing deep about this movie. Her character isn't deep. Her performance isn't, fantastic or award worthy or anything like that. But you can tell that she knows what to do with what she is being, what scene she's in.
Yeah.
All the dance moves. It's amazing how every single dance move is exactly the same. It is. There's no variations in the dance moves.
Nope.
It's fascinating.
So, like one thing that I also was looking. It took me a second for this to dawn on me while I was watching it this time around. So, one thing that I also know from Paul Verhoeven's films is that he always has commercials. and the commercials underlie part of the story.
Okay.
So you've got
RoboCop.
RoboCop. You've got all the I buy that for $1.
Sure.
The commercials for the XUX. Then you've got in Total Recall the stuff about Mars and the Dream Company.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got all the recruitment stuff in Starship Troopers. There's actually commercials in this that aren't really commercials.
Huh.
The underlie is Henrietta Bazoom, because every time they walk into that strip club, she's on stage doing a monologue of some sort of like shit joke. It's like a garbage joke that underlies what's going on,
right?
Like in the movie.
Okay.
Like she's like singing the song about the Yellow Rose of Texas. All she does is fuck.
Interesting.
And then you've got the what do you call a useless piece of skin around a twat? Oh, a woman. Like all of her jokes are garbage jokes that aren't really funny.
Yeah.
But the audience is laughing along with her, and she's shouting them at the top of her lungs.
Huh.
She's the underlie, like where the commercials would be in this movie.
That's
without
interesting.
actually being there being a commercial. It's actually her character.
That's an interesting take. And you're right, Hermano, in which there's only one redeemable character in this movie, and the most terrible thing happens to her.
Exactly.
Yes.
And
One good person.
I don't know. Again, what message are we supposed to take away from that?
Yeah, I don't
like. It feels like the ending feels shoved on as like. There are moments in this film that I'm like, are they trying to make this sort of a? There's the moment where her character, is originally working at a strip club, and she sort of has a sort of camaraderie with the other dancers there, and it seems like there's a sort of mutual respect amongst all the dancers at the strip club.
Yeah.
And once she leaves, she gets into the actual Showgirls show, and it's like a cat fight, like constantly, like everyone is like clawing at each other's eyes. It's a lot of like really ambitious people that are going to do underhanded things to take your spot away from you, and things like that. You're surrounded by people that don't have your best interest at heart, and they only want what you can offer them, essentially. And I thought maybe they were going to go with she's at the end of the film, she's going to realize that, she had everything she wanted originally, and like, fame isn't what it's cracked up to be. But they kind of abandoned it in a way. Like, and then there's that like shoved in, situation that happens with her friend, and all of a sudden it turns into sort of like a vigilante moment. Yep. Like a revenge film, sort of. And I'm like, where is all this coming from?
Without that moment, I would have a very, very hard time stomaching this movie. If she doesn't have that moment of revenge, if you will, or getting back, at that guy, this is an extremely hard movie to stomach. Now, the thing about this movie, though, is that it plays like she is this agent of chaos that upends the industry in this town. And so the only knock I have on this movie is the fact that they reveal her real name and who she is, because without that, it becomes an even more fascinating kind of examination of what it takes for the industry or this show, this corporation to have its star and revenue upended, and like I said, this agent of chaos, this nameless agent of chaos, if you will. And I love the idea, if you read up on this movie, that there was an idea to have a sequel in which she goes to Hollywood and essentially does the same thing.
Yes.
So having that theme run throughout a possible trilogy, oh my God.
That would be awesome.
You guys know there was a second film, though, right?
I do, but it completely only related to one actress who did everything by herself. She wrote, directed, edited, scored the movie. She was the main actress in the movie. Yeah.
She also starred in it,
and
she brought back the guy who plays her, I guess, boyfriend / fiance.
Okay.
The African American dancer guy. He's also in it as well, and I'm like, wow,
he does have a problem with pussy.
Clearly. again, like at first you think like, oh, this guy's going to be another like sort of moral compass, the guy who sees like, you know, the trajectory she's heading in and is going to try to course correct her, but he ends up being kind of a dickhead too. And I'm just like, what is going on?
Everybody's trash.
Everybody
Exactly.
is trash. Yeah, yeah. Well, so your boy Kyle MacLachlan is in this movie. What do you think of him?
He is slumming it hardcore in this film. I think he does the best. He definitely finds the wavelength, the right wavelength to be on based on what's happening in the rest of the film. I think, you know, no man in this film comes out looking good. Like not a single one.
Oh no.
Men in this film are maybe more garbage than the women, and basically are completely treat women just like, you know, pieces of ass constantly.
Another theme in a lot of Verhoeven movies. Even one we talked about a couple of years ago in Elle. That movie has even Elle herself is a pretty terrible person. So you look at Starship Troopers, tons other than Casper Van Dien, who is the noble hero.
Yeah.
Everybody else is pretty trash. Basic Instinct, of course. Total Recall. Is Arnie even? He's a reluctant hero. Is he noble? Is he flawless? I don't think he's flawless. RoboCop definitely not. There's no flawless people in that movie. And you go even earlier in his filmography. I've seen Flesh and Blood from 1985. Oh boy.
Yeah, but I mean, there's something to be said about when you're an actual good actor, you can kind of make the most of what you're given. Like Gina, there's a difference between Elizabeth Berkley 11 and Gina Gershon 11.
Sure.
Like I think they're both at 11, but Gina Gershon is easily handling that dialed up performance.
She is at an 8 maybe in this movie because we've seen her at an 11 in Joe. What's a Killer Joe?
Killer Joe.
Yeah, that was an 11.
Well, I don't know. I think based on her performance and her kind of looks and just kind of, she's really good at the sarcastic replies and all that stuff, and just really being underhanded with the Elizabeth Berkley character. I just feel like the worst writing, I mean, the whole film is poorly written in my opinion, but Kyle MacLachlan and Gina Gershon do like miracle work, making some of that dialogue like seem plausible.
What about
where Elizabeth Berkley just fumbles it constantly, and just with her hyper performance, like it just makes it seem that much worse.
What about my boy Special Agent Johnson from Die Hard, Robert Davi?
Dude,
come on,
sausage fingers. Like that dude had some like legit sausage fingers every time because he constantly was like smoking or had something in his hand, and I kept looking at his fingers. I was like, holy shit, man.
I love how he tries to become the father figure towards the end of the movie when he comes and sees how successful.
That's what I'm talking about. Is like, what are they doing here? Like, I thought like she had a moment right there. She's like, I think that's what they were trying to get across in that moment was like, you know, they come to support her all of a sudden, and she's like, oh, you know what? They were just kind of like, you know, giving me shit, but they didn't really, you know, mean, you know, anything bad to happen to me or were negative really. They were just like kind of ribbing me, you know.
Yeah,
and
but it's a backhanded compliment because like his last words to her like, must be nice not having to come on you.
Yeah, it seems like he makes jokes like that before, where he the new girl, he's like, oh, later you know you can come over and you can blow me or something. But I don't think he actually means like she has to blow him. I think that's just his way of I don't know, just kind of like hazing, like the rookie or something.
It could be,
that
but
level.
Like, when you take that last line that he says to her, like that's also possible that she's gonna have to, because like he was her boss and now she doesn't have to blow him anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, I took it more as like, you know, that's just sort of the sort of relationship they have, where they just kind of have a relationship where they just kind of, you know, insult each other back and forth, but it's not mean-spirited. You know what I mean? Kind of like Tim and I have.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. Like, okay, we got to talk about some of these scenes, like the sex scene, the pool scene. Come on.
Oh my God. You know what I thought watching it this time?
There was a dolphin?
Has anyone ever spliced in a scene of an actual wave pool at a water park with that scene?
That would be hilarious.
Or a typhoon or something. Like just have like a fucking tsunami, like
oh my God,
and then follow it up with a tsunami. because that
gonna-
pool was
I'm-
fucking shaking.
I'm gonna track this scene down, and I'm going to do this now.
Bally, you're gonna go viral if you do. Just be prepared for the viral
But
fame.
like even the setup for that scene where like they're both in the pool together, and she goes like she starts to like blow him, and then she like skitters away underneath the waterfall. Then he comes out like full on Frankenstein, like hands out, grabby claws, like a freaking Jaeger from Pacific Rim, walking through like the waterfall to come get her.
I can only imagine Paul Verhoeven just off camera, just like directing. All right, call McLaughlin now. Just stick your arms out and pretend to be Frankenstein and try to go get her playfully and stuff. I'm like, were they really directed to do this, or were they just like, man, I'm in such a trash film that I think even me doing this will just kind of work somehow.
I'd love to imagine Paul Verhoeven talks exactly like
Werner Herzog.
Werner Herzog, yes, and it is now. Yes, go into the pool, splash.
I want you to go into the pool, and then you will attack her with your hands through the water, because that's a metaphor for the veil.
Veil. I love it. And even though the one earlier on in the film where at the strip club where she gives him a lap dance, the horniest lap dance you'll ever see in your life. I swear to God, this thing is amazing. And also, this is the one where you're like, I can't believe Elizabeth Berkley, the actress, is saying, oh, I'm okay with this amount of nudity. There's literally nothing left to the imagination.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to do I really wanted to go back and do like a titty counter on this. Like, how many times do you see Elizabeth Berkley on screen, and then how many times do you see her with her boobs out?
Do you know how? You know that this movie played on VH1. Anybody remember VH1? By the way, kids, ask your parents. VH1 played this movie, and of course it was edited. And for all the topless scenes, they had
40 minutes long. The whole movie.
No, they literally had these like cartoonish, looks like hand painted bikini tops to cover the topless dancers.
Oh wow!
I remember that.
It was amazing. Even back then, I couldn't imagine the manpower that was involved in editing this movie for television.
They really wanted to screen it. They really wanted to. Can we talk about the kids in the dressing room? Because that was another hilarious scene for me. Where, like, that one dancer has her like young daughter and son, like amongst all these topless women in the back of the Showgirls dressing room.
Oh,
and then you've got the black dancer who's like, "What the fuck are these kids doing here?" And she's like, "She said the F word." Shut the fuck up! I'm like, what is this?
Dude, that literally solidifies how I felt about the entire film. It's like stuff like that just crammed in and so poorly done. And I'm like, I kind of want to push back at the idea that he realized that, look, I'm dealing with absolute garbage human beings, and I'm going to somehow like make this film be on that level. Like, I don't buy that. I think he was somehow trying to portray this world, and it just didn't work. Like, it's hard to watch a film like this with basically zero redeemable anything, like characters, plot line, story arcs, like nothing. Like there's almost nothing to really take away from this and come out like positive. Like, it's just
that's what appeals to me about this movie for some reason. I have no idea. I can't explain why it totally works for me despite those faults that you say. I have no idea. You want to talk about the effort that Joe Esterhaus went into writing this movie and coming up with names? The name Nomi Malone came from Esterhaus's wife's nickname, Nomi. Her real name is Naomi. And he chose Malone because he thought of Nomi as being alone in the world.
That's deep.
What else? What other scenes are there? The other lap dance where he brings her Nomi to the apartment for his dance routine,
number.
His dance number that he's written, and he can't have sex with her.
Yep,
yeah, I love how he reaches down into her pants. I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
She's like, I'm on my period. He's like, I'm on my period. He's like, bullshit. She's like, check for yourself.
God, man.
And he's like, I got towels.
Yeah, that's Oh my god, it's so uncomfortable, man. Their interactions, like when she's like, life sucks, and he's like, where'd you get that? A T-shirt? You got T-shirt philosophies? And I'm just like, fuck, man, this is so awful. This is so awful.
So why?
And then, if you notice, he's banging Hope.
Yes.
In the scene where he gets caught, the new dancer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
do we want
go
to?
ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, do we want to even touch on that? Really, probably the most horrific scene in the entire film, the rape scene.
Well, like what haven't we already talked about?
I guess I just want to talk about the structure of it. I thought it was kind of an odd choice to. It seemed like they were setting up the guy. I don't even know what he was. Was he like some sort of composer or something? Musician.
Sure.
Famous guy.
Yeah, and this girl had been like, she'd been set up like she was a big fan of his, and she finally gets to meet him, and Nomi brings her to this party where she actually gets to meet him, and then the way it plays out is like you think like, oh, he's going to be the one that potentially sexually assaults her or whatever.
Nope,
and
his buddy.
It's so strange because he brings her into the room. The guy is already naked, and are we supposed to assume that he's like someone who likes to watch, like he's like a cuck or something? Like, I don't know.
How much? See,
he's a sadist. He's watching her get punished.
It's awful, and the scene afterwards where she comes downstairs and she's all bloodied. You talk about the way that scene unfolds. That you would expect that they would get caught in the act or in that scene, or that they would put the pieces together that during that moment. That there's someone witnessed her going out over with him, or
right. There was a lot of people at that party, and to the film portrays it as like nothing's going to happen, like even with all these witnesses, all these people that I'm sure if she came forward he would certainly get in trouble.
They even play it on later on where they know what happened, they find out what happened, but there's nothing that they will do about it because he's such a contributor to the hotel and the show, and he's so famous that they're not going to do anything. Hence the whole idea of power and
the power structure, the people in power basically control and try to manipulate you into doing things you otherwise would never want to do.
See, there's meaning behind this movie.
Well, sort of, but I mean, the entire way it's explored, I just feel like it's like bits and pieces, and I think it revels a bit too much in the trashiness of the world all these people inhabit. And I feel like there's too little of that and too much of the awful dialogue and the back and forth with Gina Gershon and Elizabeth Berkley kind of going at each other and trying to one-up one another.
I mean, that whole scene there too plays out. The way it's actually put together is actually, and this is going to sound, don't take this the wrong way, it's actually very well done. Because you have this horrific act going on behind closed doors while everyone is dancing cheek to cheek in the other room with like light music playing. It's a love song. Everyone's slow dancing. Elizabeth Berkley is with Kyle MacLachlan. She's getting her wish, and this other chick is getting her wish. But it's a complete nightmare. And it keeps cutting back and forth between this idyllic scene of everybody slow dancing and having a good time and this person being brutalized.
Yeah, I'm sure that, the film student in me wants to say that, he obviously did that on purpose. He wanted to juxtapose those two very different scenes and like, derive meaning of like, behind all the glitz and glamour and all this like, star power and stuff like that is this like seedy underbelly backdrop, all this, stuff going on in the background. That's just, the uglier side, the awful side that you're not privy to. What
about the bookends of this movie with the cowboy, the Elvis dude?
That's a strange coincidence. See, of all the trucks that had to drive through Vegas, it had to be you.
This is what I'm talking about. Is this agent of chaos that comes in and out of Vegas, and this little bookend is humorous to me.
And it's even weirder because like when she's leaving Vegas, she's got like her shirt open, tits out, and like her disguise is like sunglasses and a hat.
Basically. But you know what? Because of everything I've seen before it, I'm like, yeah, this is probably would work in the world she inhabits.
Armando, I'm really surprised because I'm sad that it didn't come around to you to become so bad it's good type of movie for you.
It kind of is. It's weird. It rides a very fine line. Like, I think it is so bad it's good. But again, it's 2 hours and 8 minutes long. I think I just don't know that it earns it. I feel like it's sad to see Kyle MacLachlan in this, kind of slumming it.
I could have easily watched another 30 minutes of this.
Yeah, I could have easily taken 30 minutes off. But again, like I wasn't totally bummed to revisit it. I think it's interesting watching it now as an adult, being a more discerning adult. I don't know. I feel like, could I have spent my 2 hours a bit better? 100%.
Well, I mean, what are we talking about? 20 plus years ago, this 2 hours was well spent for a teenager, I think. Because
yeah. I don't know, man.
Tim's dehydrated. As a teenager. I just need more water.
I don't know. It's one of those amazing time capsule movies, and like, can you ever remake this? It's
no.
I was thinking that. I was like, you could not. You know what?
Never.
I don't want to say never. You could, but man, would this film get even more obliterated now than it probably did back then.
Once again, it's of the time period where these films are still being funded by studios, and this isn't a studio film anymore. This genre barely well, if you want to classify this as the erotic thriller, it's barely that. It's just erot.
It's only classified as drama on IMDb, but I would throw erotic thriller in there as like a subgenre.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that it was a very specific time period that this was popular and existed, and it really doesn't exist much anymore.
What's the closest thing that we could even compare this film to nowadays?
Shades of Grey.
See,
yeah, probably.
I guess, but oh man, I love those movies.
Well, even 50 Shades of Grey, I mean, I've never seen those, but do they even come close to this film as far as
absolutely
any of the things featured?
Oh,
within?
You mean the amount of nudity? No, absolutely not. No.
And just like the level of depravity.
No, not at all.
Okay.
They're very weirdly gentle movies in terms of their depiction of sexuality, because he's supposed to be this fucking S&M guy, and you constantly see this room that has all these ropes and whips and handcuffs and devices, and they barely do anything. It's the tamest fucking thing compared to what they show he has and what he claims that he suffers from. And but that's part of the reason I love the movies. That's because they're so fucking strange like that. But yeah, I have no idea what the closest thing nowadays would. Elle, once again, we go back to another Verhoeven movie in Elle, and it uses sexuality, but it's not explicit.
No.
So...
I mean, even the opening scene where she's attacked is very. It's brutal. It's fast. And then it's over with, and then she gets up and comprise herself.
Right. So
I mean, the only other thing that I could say is probably on that level of discomfort would be like Irreversible.
Yeah.
And of course a Serbian film, but that's like it's kind of its own thing.
Yeah, both of those movies are their own thing, and they don't even fall into this genre. Yeah, let's get into grades, Hermano. Like when you were a teenager, what do you think you would have given this?
Again, I know I saw it. I barely have any recollection of it, but I'm sure this titillated a young Hermano a lot more than it did now. So I don't know, man. It's really hard to rate this film. I mean, I know what I can rate it now. Back then, it would be an absolute toss-up, and I'll just go right down the middle and say like B-. Now, this is like a C- to a D film for me. I really did not enjoy myself, except for the sort of so bad it's good. I did chuckle a couple of times based on the writing, primarily, and just the fact that these actors had to deliver this dialogue. But aside from that, I just felt like, it just really didn't do much for me.
As a kid, a teen, A++, and I'm giving this an A+ as well right now. I can't tell you how much fun I had watching this movie. Like, I had to pause this movie halfway through to get up and pee or whatever, and I literally said out loud as I paused, I said, "This movie is bananas. I love it." Yeah, A fuck plus, absolutely. Wally.
All right, so as a teenager, I absolutely gave this movie an F, and I awarded no points. As a grown man, I'm watching this movie, Tim, and I'm sitting there going, we should have waited for an anniversary for this. I think this is the ideal movie to freaking riff tracks.
Huh.
Like, to comment on shit as it's happening, because there's so much that goes on. I'm just like, I wish I could talk about this. Like, I almost want to live tweet while I was watching it, but I didn't want to give away anything for the episode. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would say this is like a solid B. This is a B movie that really should be shown with a group of friends and some alcohol, and just rip into it, and you'll have a good time.
That's fair. So our next second time watchers will be next month. And Hermano, you've been tossing up a couple of films. Have you chosen which one?
Yeah, I came up with an idea. I'm not sure if you guys will be okay with it, but there have been really 3 films that I think would work for based on the month. It's going to be in October, our next one, and there were 3. I guess you could call them like introductory horror films for me when I was younger. So my initial choice was The People Under the Stairs, but I was also pretty fond of the Stephen Dorff starring The Gate. Have you guys ever seen The Gate?
Nope.
No.
Pretty solid, like kid-centric horror film. And there was also another that I think maybe Wally has seen. I'm not sure if Tim's ever seen it. Do you guys remember Critters?
Oh yes.
Yeah, I've never.
Tim, are you familiar with Critters?
I am familiar. I've never. I always remember going to the video store, kids, ask your parents, and seeing the covers on the VHS tapes and being like, "Oh man, I don't know if I can handle that." Oh my god.
So, would you guys be open to maybe throwing it to the listeners? Maybe do a poll, put all 3 of those on the list, and see which one wins? Because I'm good with any of those 3, but
let's do that.
Excellent.
I'm leaning towards People Under the Stairs, but we'll see what people want to listen to us talk about.
Oh, will do. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Good job, Romano.
I try.
Okay, that does it for this episode of the First Time Watchers podcast. Donate via patreon.com/firsttimewatchers or buy stuff at zazzle.com/firsttimewatchers.
You can talk to us on Twitter at @1ST Time Watchers on Twitter.
Or email us at our email, firsttimewatchers@gmail.com.
Download our episodes on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. Feel free to leave a review. We'd love feedback. If you have any suggestions of movies for us to watch, please send a tweet or an email. Speaking of suggestions, let's recommend a movie. I'll go first. So Joe Esterhaus wrote Showgirls. And quote unquote wrote Showgirls, and he also wrote a movie from 1993 that is definitely in the same genre as the erotic thrillers that we were talking about, directed by Philip Noyce and starring Sharon Stone and William Baldwin and Tom Berenger, and that is Sliver.
Yeah.
Sliver is a woman moves into an exclusive New York City apartment building, which she soon discovers houses tenants with all manners of shocking secrets. And let's just say voyeurism becomes involved.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the quintessential 90s trashy erotic thriller. Not as good, not as well done as Basic Instinct, but certainly as entertaining. It's only an hour and 47 minutes, like a lot of these movies of this era were. And I think you'll have a lot of fun. So Sliver, 1993. Wally.
All right. So when we went to go see this movie, so Showgirls was released toward the end of September, and it was co-running with the movie that I wanted to see, which was released a month earlier toward the end of August, and that is directed by Robert Rodriguez, starring Antonio Banderas, Salma Hayek, and Joaquim de Almeida, and that is Desperado. A gunslinger is embroiled in a war with a local drug runner. If you love action movies, this movie is the tits. This movie, when I saw it at like the discount theater after it had already had his theatrical run, I even remember going to see Joe after it was going, "You fucked me out of an action movie. This Showgirls bullshit." Because Desperado is off the walls like action movie, like just bananas, like as Tim would put it. there is a scene toward the end where there's this giant firefight with 3 mariachis. One guy's got a guitar case full of guns. One's got a rocket launcher, and one's got miniguns. And they fight a whole bunch of bad guys. It's awesome.
Hermano.
So after this film, I needed to wash the bad taste of Kyle MacLachlan out of my mouth, and I needed to watch
Same with
something
Elizabeth
that
Berkley.
I needed to watch a much more enjoyable performance that he gave in one of my favorite TV shows of all time that ran from 1990 to 1991, Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Starring Kyle MacLachlan, David Lynch, a bunch of other people. An idiosyncratic FBI agent investigates the murder of a young woman in the even more idiosyncratic town of Twin Peaks. Beloved show by me. Kyle MacLachlan will always have a special place in my heart based on this series alone. I thought he gave an amazing performance. He continued that with Twin Peaks The Return that came out a couple years ago, which I also loved. Very different, but enjoyable nonetheless. It's a very strange show, which is pretty much exactly why I love it. And it's also directed by David Lynch, which I love. Whoa, what's that?
That's my phone going off. Sorry.
Whoa, let's jam, Wally. Let it go. Let it go.
Nope.
Okay, so yeah, watch Twin Peaks. It's good.
All right, and stay tuned for our next episode. We'll be discussing It, Chapter 2.
That's the first time I watch this podcast because we like to watch. How you escaped. Hold on, you're gonna die.
Oh. You still murdering flies?
Gotcha.
I knew it.
He's punching holes in walls.
Anyone else?